What's up, guys? We are live. Appreciate everybody that's joining us. Are we in a freight recession, or are we headed to a freight recession? There's a couple of things I want to share with you today. Hope everybody's doing well. If you guys are joining us, let me know where you're watching from. We got the chat live. When we go over any questions that you have later on. Excuse any technical difficulties if we have any technical difficulties today. Hope everybody's doing well. Are we going through a freight recession? And we're going to talk about that. A few things I want to discuss with you guys. I'm going to wait till a few people get on. Hope everybody's doing well. I did read something about a fuel shortage in some areas and some truck stops. Let me know what you guys is appreciate you joining us as we are in a freight recession. Well, I'm going to discuss some key points that may change your mind, may not. A lot of information. Like I said, I did see something about some fuel shortages in some areas, guys. Let me know if that's something that you've seen across the board or in some areas. I'm interested to know. Guys, let me know where you're watching from. I appreciate you, everybody, joining us. I was just waiting for a few people to come in. Hey, I appreciate that. Got some more videos coming out. I got a video coming out on Wednesday, and we're shooting over the weekend, so pretty excited about that as well. So, are we in a freight recession? I don't want to drag it on too long, but I do want to make sure everybody's on today. I want to make sure you guys can hear me just fine. Appreciate everybody joining in. A lot of local guys. I see a lot of people in Texas. I see somebody in Canada, California. Shout out to California. Let me know where you guys are watching from. Miami's in the house. Miami's really nice. I heard it's really nice there. Lubbock, Texas. New Jersey. What's going on in New Jersey? I really like your videos. I try to put as much information. I'm going to try to put more time into it so I can go over the content, make sure we're not repeating ourselves, and just being more clear about what information I want to get out to you guys. So, are we in a freight recession? Let's go ahead and get started with this. So, what I've seen across the board. Now, there's a few things that I want to cover today, but from what I've seen across the board, I don't think that we're in a freight recession. Actually, I don't. We're not in a freight recession. What's going on is basically a rebalancing of how freight is being moved around the country. Right now, a lot of the shippers are wanting to use contract freight. They're wanting to lock trucks down, which is basically dedicated freight. They want to get dedicated freight locked down so that they are paying a higher rate, but they're not exposed to the spot market right now. And the transition that's happening is just a lot of these shippers are just becoming more just becoming more friendly, becoming more involved with their brokers and their carriers, and locking in that capacity. And what I've seen is there's a lot of usually whenever you do see some stuff going on in the freight industry, you see a lot of acquisitions. There has been going on a lot of acquisitions that I wanted to discuss. Now, I'm going to put all this information together and give you my opinion on why I don't think we're in a freight recession. But as I'm mentioning, okay, so we have carrier acquisition is whenever, carriers buy other carriers. Since right now carriers aren't able to buy new trucks because they're not able to produce new trucks fast enough, because everyone knows the supply chain problems and issues like that. They're having issues with production, so they're not able to get new trucks. So carriers are looking to get deals by buying other carriers and acquiring, of course, their equipment and their drivers. So this is a good sign. Usually whenever you do have mergers like this, or companies buying each other, it is an indication that something is going, something weak is happening in the market. But this is an opposite. This is the only reason why they're doing this is because either some of the trucking companies are getting ready to get out of the business, and other companies are ready to grow their fleets. For example, Schneider, and I'm looking here exactly what it was. Schneider acquires, and I don't want to mispronounce this, but it's De Boer. Now that's a big acquisition there. That's a huge acquisition. And like I mentioned, the reason why they're doing that is because they're wanting to create a larger capacity, a larger fleet. There's more acquisitions that happen. I think it was Heartland Express acquired Smith Transportation. So it's not an indication that, like I said before, when acquisitions would happen, it would be during a weak market. But in this case, it's because capacity is so much needed and drivers are so much needed that they're doing acquisitions and in this way instead of just buying new equipment. Okay, so I want to move over to some more information that I was looking over, especially in the ports. Okay, so when we look at the port of Houston, okay, are we in a freight recession? All right, of course, that's our topic, but I want to talk about what's going on in Houston. Okay, Houston's imports right now are reported 25% more, up 25% from prior years. Also, Houston is also actually starting to open their terminals on Saturday just so they can actually get trucks in and out. That doesn't show. Okay, right here, another indicator right here. 45,000 trucks out of Houston's port per week. 65,000 container transactions. That's in a week. 45,000 trucks. Okay, this isn't a sign of, as I'm giving you all this information, this is not a sign of a freight recession. When you got carriers having to group together to create more power, you got 25% increase in imports, that many trucks. You got ports opening on the weekends. I took a note here. I mean, drivers should consider maybe running on Saturdays if you're running in that Houston area, or if your ports are open on Saturdays. I know mostly OTR drivers, over the road drivers, prefer driving at night because there's less traffic and there's just less of a headache. There's less of a headache. Houston also reported 15 ships are anchored at the end of March. They were down to 8 in May. Okay, and right now exports 9.5 day wait. When I see exports at 9.5 day wait, that kind of surprises me because I would figure our exports should be priority if that's something that we're that's high value for us. But if it's taking 9.5 days, and look at this, the goal for imports, for processing imports, is 4 days and 7 days for exports. So this is just another indicator right now with shippers trying to adjust and realign and lock down truck capacity. This is basically their way of trying to control the spot market, and it's working. It's lowering the spot market. So if you guys are moving spot market freight, you may see a little bit of a flat line. Okay, so the correction of the spot market, happened like last month, and it was due of like I mentioned, from the shippers moving over to contract freight. But what things I want to mention, okay, so the continued consumer spending, which is what people are actually spending, everybody that's just buying, continuing to buy, everybody that's still buying, and U.S. factories increase in production, all this is just piling up at the imports. At the exports and the imports are piled up. Yards are full. They don't have enough room to stack all these containers. Guys, to me, all this information, all this stuff together, it doesn't mount up to a freight recession. All this really shows is just there is a disruption. Shippers are trying to save money. The cost of running a truck is high. That has not changed. If anything, it's going higher, especially with fuel. But at the same time, this shift in freight, I don't feel like it's going to be something that's going to be long term, especially with all the freight that's still being piled up at the ports. They're not able to get stuff out. I mean, there was an article that I read that the ports were actually asking Congress for not only financial help, but aid to be able to process all the freight that's coming in. There's some information that I was looking over about how our infrastructure is still not built, our inland infrastructure. So it's not only issues with our ports with not being able to handle all the flow that's coming in, but also just our infrastructure when it comes to our rail systems, how we're offloading the containers, how we're storing them, how we're moving them around. It's really, really inefficient. It's really inefficient is what it comes down to. And but there is a lot of improvements going on. But there was a hiccup in spot market, guys. So if you did see lower rates out there, that's going to be an indication of what was going on. But as I mentioned, this is not permanent. This is not permanent. This is not something that's going to be holding on like this for a long time. The one thing I'd like to mention, the trucking industry is basically ahead of the economy. That's a lot of people don't know that how the trucking industry works is basically is just an indicator of how our economy is working. It's ahead of the economy. So if you have a slowdown in trucking, a lot of times you're going to see the slowdown maybe a few months or a year later on in the actual economy. And that being said, when I look at hire reports, I'm looking at hiring reports in the trucking in the U.S. trucking industry. Shout out to everybody that's watching us out of the United States. But right now, I'm pretty sure it's the same where you're at now. I'm pretty sure the way that freight demand is moving is pretty global. But in just May, 22,000 people were hired in the trucking sector. This is non-seasonal hiring. That means it wasn't because we had a season coming up and this is why they're hiring people in the industry. No, it's a non-seasonal hire of 22,000 people. These are definitely signs of a strong market. Definitely signs of a strong market. If you combine April and May, 37,000 new hires, non-seasonal, which means these are hires that needed to happen, and these are employments that happen all across the board at docks, shops, offices, workers, drivers. And I look back at this. I look back at how much hiring was happening in the trucking sector to kind of get an idea of how we are looking now. Are we in the freight recession? No, we're not in the freight recession. If you look at I looked at this chart, and if I had it, I'd bring it up here. But it's been a steady increase since March 2020, which is just a couple years ago. But it's just been a steady increase. And you're looking at 22,000 people just in 1 month. That's an enormous amount of people being hired. And would they do that mass amount of hiring? Would trucking companies try to join together? Would all these ports try to open up extra on the weekend to support a recession freight? No, we're not. These are just all really good indicators that we're just chugging along, but basically at a lower gear, not as fast as we were moving in 2021, a little bit slower, but we're still chugging along. And then, we're talking about acquisitions, and I brought up acquisitions earlier. One other thing I'd like to mention is that not every acquisition is being accepted. Some of the acquisitions that happen is because, of course, they were ready to get out of the business, so it was just a good timing. But for example, Ryder rejected an offer of $4.4 billion. Ryder. So somebody offered Ryder $4.4 billion to take over or to, of course, buy them out. And that's a big value. That's a huge value. $4.4 billion. That's enormous. That's enormous. When you got that much type of movement in the freight industry or in the freight sector and the transportation sector, these are all indicators that we're in a very tough market. We're in a strong market. One thing I do want to throw in there, since we are a repair shop, is keeping up with the maintenance. When you see that these different carriers joining together to create larger capacity, they can't buy new trucks, so they're having to maintain what they have. These are all indicators that, hey, this is something that you need to be working on as well, having a maintenance program in place, following your intervals as well, so that you can get that longevity out of that truck. That truck is a large asset right now. I know that maybe some of you guys, if you were running under spot market, you may want to look into some of these larger companies that have more capacity, running power only, using their equipment, basically pulling their trailers. Some of those guys might be very well compensated if you run with them. And if you're interested in joining the trucking industry, right now is not a bad time. This is a really good time. When you have that much hiring that's happening, 22,000 is what I mentioned. Is that what it was? 22,000. these companies are willing to spend good money to hire drivers on. What I wouldn't suggest is, if you're not too familiar with this industry, that I wouldn't go off buying your own truck just yet. Do your research if you're ready for it, but I would definitely jump into a company truck. I do see some of the owner operators that were out here running on their own did revoke their authority and go into running with bigger carriers. So when you see that type of transitions that's happening, it's large transitions. This is not small. This is not one guy that I know. This is, reports showing a percentage of drivers that from owner operators that weren't able to make it through this tough times or this flat lines with the fuel increase and whatnot, that they are moving over to larger fleets. So that's not something that's being thrown out there. Those are facts. What else can we talk about? These are, like I mentioned, these are all indicators that we're not in a freight recession. This is shippers just adjusting to trying to realign and lock truck capacity down. And it's a good practice. I see what they're doing, but it's not going to be a long term. It's not going to be a long term effect there. So as I mentioned, it's just a realignment. Since the pandemic caused this disruption, shippers become closer. As I mentioned at the beginning of the show, the shippers, they really kind of were like, hey, we're going to see whenever we do get an influx in freight that we're going to start getting close to our carriers and close to our brokers. This was before the pandemic. When the pandemic happened, now they see how valuable and how crucial it is and how vital it is to make those relationships with those brokers and those carriers, because look what happened. I mean, it got to a point where a lot of carriers were turning down freight because there was so much freight going on out there that carriers are still now in the driver's seat. They're still now in the driver's seat. I would still not, agree to pull cheaper freight. There's better paying freight. Even if you're running with a larger company, there's better paying freight out there. But as I mentioned, it's just shippers and carriers and brokers are still in the driver's seat. They're still being able to make the price points right now. I did see some negotiations. They're trying to renegotiate the contracts already. I can imagine how carriers already feel about that. If you have a shipper that's already locking down a capacity, hey, I'm already committing to you, dedicated. That's basically dedicated my trucks to you. And then now you want to renegotiate the price going lower. That, I can see how that could be a possibility where spot market's going to see more of an increase. So that's basically what they're trying to do, just lock capacity down. As I mentioned, drivers are moving around. They're moving around over from company to moving to company drivers, just because it's more of a solid environment. It's not as fluctuated. It can be very up and down. Right now, we're kind of like in a flat area. And as one thing that I mentioned, as I mentioned before, the transportation sector is basically ahead of the economy. It's going to be basically giving everybody a heads up on what's going on. And what they're expecting is in 2023 and 24, we're expected to have a different economy. So the way that freight's moving now is basically going to be kind of the new era of how it's going on. I did hear something about fuel shortages, guys. I didn't see anybody make any comments. I'm going to get to some of your comments here shortly. If you got any questions about your truck, I'm going to be covering some questions and covering your comments here shortly, guys. I just wanted to continue over on what the subject matter was over, or the title, because I did get some feedback on me getting off subject. So as I mentioned, dedicated carriers are all attracted to shippers. That's if you do have a small fleet. Let me get a drink of water here. If you do have a small fleet, I would recommend not, back in the day, we didn't want to dedicate our trucks. We didn't want to dedicate equipment because you don't want to get locked down. But right now would be a good way to, or something to consider, I should say. Because just the simple fact is, if you see larger carriers making these same moves, those are decent practices. If they're moving over to contract freight, and if you have a few trucks and you're getting, and this is probably some old news, you're probably already locked down in contracts. It's very common right now. A lot of people in the house. I appreciate everybody that's joining us. I hope you guys enjoy the information that I gathered here together here for you guys. Some more information I wanted to go over. We're not in a freight recession. As I mentioned, acquisitions are gaining speed. All this production is just putting a strain. I mean, just a strain on what we have going on right now. They cannot expand our ports fast enough. One thing's for sure. I wrote some information down. The rising operating costs and lower transactional spot rates are likely to increase small fleet sales. So basically, what that's saying is the cost of actually doing business is going to still continue to increase and cause small fleets to sell. What can you do in this environment? What can you do in this environment is all you can do is dedicate trucks. If they're looking to lock down trucks down, or if you're looking to join a larger fleet, that's something that you might want to look into until freight kind of balances itself out. I did mention last week, we talked a little bit about an EPA, and I kind of wanted to circle back a little bit on that. I do want to get to you guys questions. You got a lot of comments here. Let me get to some of your comments here before I move on to the next subject. Appreciate everybody that's joined us today. If you guys want to hit us up on Super Chat, hit us up on Super Chat. Appreciate everybody that's joining us. So I hope that I was able to answer your question. I got one comments here saying that we are in a freight recession. These are all indicators that things have changed. Things are, consumers are buying different, but I don't really think we're in a freight recession. Contract freight. What is contract freight? Contract freight is basically, instead of the carrier or the shipper, whoever is moving the freight, is putting it on the spot market, which is basically where a lot of, just putting it out on a board or loading it to a broker and bidding it out to a broker. They're going to, instead of doing that, they're going to commit, or a carrier is going to commit to that shipper, and they're going to come to an agreement saying, hey, I can move this freight for you under a contract at this rate, no matter what rises or what decreases. And so as you can see, that is beneficial for carriers or shippers, because they're able to lock that business down, or lock that truck capacity down, is what it's called. And it's the same beneficial for carriers as well, because now they don't have to worry about looking for freight. They already have dedicated freight. But it's a very large responsibility when you start dedicating equipment to a shipper, because they're going to expect you to be there 100%, no questions asked, no ifs, ands, or buts. You're going to have to be there. So it's a large stress. So, and then you have the increase in fuel. So you can see how carriers may want to increase their contract negotiations, or if they see how low spot market is, which is not the overflow of freight onto the spot market, they see how lower that's being paid. Shippers want to pay less. So the contracts are in place to try to lock prices in. And it could be beneficial for both sides. California is checked in. Dallas, Texas is checked in. That's where we're from, Dallas, Texas. Miami, Florida has checked in the house. Arlington, Texas, how you doing? Hello from New Jersey. I think I said what's up there earlier. In NYC in the house. Vegas, what's going on? Vegas in the house. I know there was a big fight that just happened. I think that was Tank. Tank fought. That was a pretty good fight. Boston's in the house. Phoenix, Arizona. How's the weather out there in Phoenix, man? I'm pretty sure it's getting hot over there already. I just released that AC video. Hope that was information. I hope that was helpful for you guys, especially with summer. I wanted to get that out a little bit earlier. Be sure not to be shooting that Freon. Don't be shooting that Freon in there, man. If you got a cooling issue, get it checked out really correctly. I saw a comment on that video saying, so everything needs to be replaced. I didn't say that. If it's been out of service for a really long time, it's going to be best to replace all components, especially if it's been out of service for like the whole season. Sometimes AC will stop working like at the end of winter or end of summer, before winter, and guys won't really worry about it. So when that happens, you don't have AC all winter, but with all those different types of change and increase and decrease in temperature, definitely going to cause condensation in as AC systems, and that AC is going to cause corrosion inside the system, and those AC expansion valves are going to clog up, compressors going to lock up. A lot of stuff may happen. So Toronto, what's going on from Toronto, Canada in the house? Appreciate it. Fresno, California, Georgia in the house. What's going on? Chicago, Illinois. Man, we got a lot of people. We got a lot of people that's joining us, man. Tulsa in the house. I hope you guys find this information useful. And if you guys want to add any information that I'm going over, if you guys got any comments you want to add, let me know. I mean, you guys really give me some energy. Just everybody checking in. H-Town, we were just talking about Houston. How many ports? How much stuff was going through that port? I can imagine how much work and how much traffic that is. What did I mention earlier? The next subject I want to talk about is EVs, man. But I still want to cover about the freight recession, and I don't want to overlook anybody's comments here. But what I mentioned in Houston, it's crazy out there, man. What was it? 45,000 trucks a week at the port of Houston. 45,000 trucks a week, and they're not even open on the weekend. So that's 5 days. 45,000 divided by 5, that's 9,000 trucks a day. That's crazy. 65,000 containers a week. That's nuts. Houston, I bet you guys have crazy traffic. Passing in Memphis, Tennessee. I appreciate you joining us. Hope you guys, I'm going to end up moving this over to a podcast, guys. So hopefully you guys, once I get that moved over, I'm going to go ahead and get that information out to you guys. But I'm still getting more content. We got another video being released this Wednesday. It's going to be how after treatment systems work. Brooklyn in the house. What's going on? I love Brooklyn style pizza. They apparently here in Texas, we don't have real pizza. So I was told by somebody from Boston. I mean, I know that's not Brooklyn, but they said that we don't have real pizza down here. So whatever that means. They're getting very strict here on the smoke test emission. Do you believe by next year California trucks have to do the smog test? Emissions is not going anywhere. Emissions control is not going anywhere. This is another reason why I'm going to be sending another video out next week about how your after treatment system works. So if you're a technician working on this system, or if you own one, it's just very useful to be knowledgeable about how a system works. As a mechanic, that's what you want to do. You want to understand how a system is supposed to work and how it's designed to work. So if it doesn't work like that, you have a better chance of finding out what's going on with it. So I appreciate everybody that's joined us today. I do believe California is going to continue to be strict. They do have a zero emissions goal, having their ports zero emissions. So that means the whole ports are going to be electrified. I see just another backlog. I know we talked about this on our last live, and it's not that California is crazy. It's because they're the closest port coming from the east, coming from Asia, and most of our freight is imports coming from Asia. So they have the most capacity coming in. I can imagine what their ports are looking like if Houston's looking at that many trucks and container transactions, 65,000 container transactions a week. I can imagine what California looks like. Loganville, Georgia. What's going on out there in the East Coast? Whatever that emoji is, I like that. I guess it's a monkey with a hammer. Hi, how you doing? Good to see you guys. Thanks for joining us. Is there a potential for many other companies to quit and they create another opportunity for anyone to cash coming into the trucking? I mean, I don't see anybody closing. I see people selling. If they have any size of a fleet, they're gonna end up selling. Maybe the smaller trucking companies will stop, but if you guys are watching this and you're in a small trucking company, before throwing in the towel, look into a larger fleet. Look into leasing your power only to a larger fleet. It may save you through this transaction, through this transition of how the freight's being moved from shippers moving over to contracts with larger carriers, because the freight is still there. The freight's gonna have to be moved. Whether it's gonna be pushed back into the spot market, it's gonna happen. It has to happen. It has to be moved. They can't be stacked up at the ports And then you have California wanting to go zero emission on their ports, all electric on their ports. That's just going to create more of a backlog. I don't see this being a long-term fix. And then you look at all the hiring. Look at all the hiring that's going on. So I do see, I don't maybe people cashing out when they sell out to larger trucking companies, but I just don't see them. But I appreciate that comment. How's the current market capacity impacting single owner operators and small fleets under 6 trucks? Terry, I hope this information was useful. I would tell you it probably is affecting you because you probably don't, if you're moving spot market and you don't have contracts, you didn't have dedicated freight, you don't have your trucks dedicated to a customer or dedicated to a shipper where you had locked in rates before all these changes are happening. Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, it could be, it's costing you more to move your trucks and you're getting flatter rates. So yeah, it could affect smaller fleets, owner operators. But as I mentioned, we can either see how it's going to ride out, because the containers are stacked up at the yards. They're not being able to be moved fast. Our infrastructure is not there, inland infrastructure when it comes to rails moving from the ports inland. Our infrastructure is not there. I mean, some of our ports aren't even big enough to accept these larger ships. So it just doesn't seem like contract freight is going to be something that's going to be long term. I do feel a pickup that's coming, that's going to be able to move more freight. But if you feel like you're already hurting, then you could consider moving over to JB Hunt or a larger company that's offering power only. You would lower expenses if you're not using your trailer, and you would be able to maybe get under an umbrella where your insurance is going to be cheaper, and maybe have some kind of fuel discount since they have larger fuel purchasing power. So I hope that information was helpful. Let's see what August looks like as far as hiring. Shit has hit the fan yet. Well, I don't really think it's hit the fan when you have that much strong in hiring in the sector. I really don't feel like it's going to. I don't really feel like we're heading in the opposite direction. I think we're headed in the right direction. Does that include driver that work for company that was maybe sold, then get hired to buy a new company? No, I don't think so, because they were talking about docks, offices, and none of them got fired and rehired on those acquisitions. It looks like a lot of on those acquisitions that the same people stayed in place. I believe, I think I want to say Heartland. Heartland did keep their home terminal in Texas. I'm not sure what they plan on doing it, but Heartland did keep their home terminal on that sale to Schneider. So we'll see what that does. I don't believe that new hire total included those acquisitions, because those acquisitions are actually were pretty large. So I might want to look into that. So could that include drivers that were already in the job? It's possible. But at the same time, I don't see it, because look at trucking companies now. Hiring is very strong right now when it comes to companies. Carriers hiring company drivers is very strong right now. They're hiring they're giving bonuses. They're allowing younger drivers to cross state lines just so that we can get more drivers in the truck. I believe that was a change. That was a change that happened in the regulations, I believe. I'll double check that, but I believe there was a change in the regulations that allowed younger drivers to cross state lines before hitting a certain amount of experience. For first-time technicians in the shop, what tool brand do you recommend? Well, Jesse, I appreciate you asking that question. I would definitely, if you're a technician, is invest in the best tools. Quality tools, Snap-on. Just depends on what you're doing. If it's an impact, definitely buy some impact sockets. Don't go cheap, because either it's just going to make the job harder, or you're going to strip a bolt, and you don't want to strip a bolt, and you don't want to use cheap tools, cheap ratchets, cheap anything when it comes to working on it. Get you a nice toolbox. If you can't afford a really nice box, get you a decent box. You don't have to get a crazy high price box. Just get a decent box, but don't go cheap on your tools. And then later on, get you a nicer box. Do you think that larger companies are merging to rid of over the road? No, I don't. I think mostly what I did read that is some of these larger trucking companies actually wanted to move over to regional, just because the LTL freight is something that's spiking. So LTL is less than truckload. So that was a market that was really being impacted by post pandemic buying, the way that the people are buying. So that last mile stuff, that LTL is really, really spiked. So a lot of trucking companies that were only OTR, were only over the road, or you know what? I think I misunderstood your question, but I'm gonna return to it here shortly. But I wanted to finish up what I was saying, because you're saying owner operators, and I was thinking OTR. Let me finish my comment. So the reason larger companies are acquiring other trucking companies that are moving LTO is because they want to move into that market. And if they don't have an existing customer base or a way of operating, that's what they're doing. But your question is, are the mergings getting rid of owner operators? I don't think so, because a lot of these trucking companies are still utilizing owner operators as power only. They know how much work it is to keep a truck up. They know the cost of keeping a truck up. They know the responsibility of keeping a truck up, and they know the importance of having capacity in the power. So somebody that's able to dedicate to them, they don't have the expense of running the truck. All they have the expenses is of course paying a driver. I don't think that would be a way for them to go. And a lot of these mergers that happened, they did have a large portion of them were owner operators that still stayed in place. That's not something that's changed. If anything, I think owner operators are going to be more welcome to companies. I don't think they're going to rid of owner operators. I don't think that's even doable. I don't even see, the owner. I would want to look at how many owner operators are out there compared to company drivers. But no, I mean, I don't see why that would be beneficial. Indianapolis in the building. What's going on? What you crying for? Hopefully you're all right. Freight recession equals general recession. We're not in a freight recession, as I mentioned. I don't see it in a freight recession. I don't see us in a freight recession. If you do see some flatline rates out there, consider looking around, joining another trucking company, a larger trucking company. Zapata, Texas in the house. What's going on? Contract freight. I already explained that. Hopefully I was able to clear that for you. Somebody else checking in from California. I'd like to visit California one day. Cornrow in the building. What's going on? I don't understand why loads are paying so cheap out of Washington State. It's just a transition, Cruz. It's a transition. That freight is probably being paid either more. More than likely being paid more under a contract agreement to a larger carrier. Most of the volume is. So there's not too much excessive volume. So that's why it's costing a cheaper amount to move it right now. But it will change. My AC took a dump today, man. I hope that video was useful. If it did, get it checked out right away. Don't wait too long. Don't wait until more dirt can get into that system and you have to replace the whole system. If it's just a leak, it happens. You're starting to run these AC systems. It's going to happen, especially if the lines are brittle. If you have an older model truck and you got brittle lines, check your lines, make sure they're not being rubbed on anything. I see a lot of AC lines with chafing going on. The same thing that happens to a brake line, the same thing that happens to an AC line. It'll chafe where the hood is hitting on it, or wherever the brace is holding that line in place will rub a hole in it and cause it to have a hole and leak all your Freon out. And the condensers, as I mentioned in that video, man, the condensers are the number one problem when it comes to an AC losing its Freon. You're going to see that right away. There's not a lot that goes on into the freight market right now. There isn't a lot going on, but there is going to be a change, because with all this freight being just stacked up at the ports and all this movement, I don't feel like everybody is feeling it. I feel like there's still some lanes, because in some lanes you're not a lot of people won't market it, and rightfully so. They don't want to market how much that lane is paying, because supposedly once you start marketing how much a high lane is paying, there's a lot of people that start moving that way. Thank you for the AC video. Really appreciate it from Houston. I appreciate that comment. I'm glad you liked it. I want to actually do better on my videos. I need to put more time into rehearsing my content so that I can be more presentable to you guys. Long Island, New York in the house. What's going on? I'd like to visit New York one day. What's going on, Cruz? Let me see. Do you do team view to truck diagnostics? I can call you guys. We don't do remote diagnostics. We do in-house diagnostic. It's going to be tough to do remote diagnostics, because when we do process trucks that come in, we try to question and try to get most of the history of what's going on with that truck, because most of the time what we see when we see an issue, a failure, or an after treatment system failure or anything like that, a lot of times if we look back on the maintenance history and the maintenance intervals, if a lot of that stuff has been overlooked, it's going to make it a little bit more challenging to pinpoint what's going on with that truck. And it's also going to be more challenging to guarantee that there will not be a return on that if there's not a solid record of maintenance. So if we're just troubleshooting over the phone, that's just going to be tough. We're not going to be able to get history on a truck. We're not going to have eyes on it. We're not going to be able to hear it. We're not going to be able to see what's going on with it. These are all information. This is all stuff that a technician is going to be looking at. So it may be a little bit challenging. Are you going to open a shop in Houston? We are going to open up a shop in Houston. I can't give you a date yet. It is in the works, but I don't have a date. So once I get a date going, I'll definitely let you guys know. I just want to ensure that everything that we have in house and Dallas is what is everything that we need. Washington State, what's going on? Wills Point, Texas, what's going on? Heath. Big Josh from Maryland. Hey, quick question. Where can I find the tool to remove the computer from the side of the block that goes on the fuel injector harness? This is a long black box. I don't know what truck that is. It may be a long black box. That might be a Cummins. You're probably going to need a Allen wrench or a star. You can buy the ones that are a socket. They have a socket with and there's a length on it. I believe those are the ones you're going to use, and maybe a 1/4 inch ratchet, so you can get in there, because it's going to be tight. What's a ballpark number for a new one box for a 2016 DD15 right now? About how long downtime? About one from you. I'd have to get the VIN number. If you want to give us a call, Hunter, 972-225-3017. Give us a call, and I'll definitely be able to give you if you want to make for sure it's a bad one box. And I'm glad you're giving that information out, because my next video Wednesday is going to be about one boxes. Fontana, California is in the house. What's up? Fuel prices are the problem. Rates haven't really moved on the spot market to reflect the fuel cost, and that's really where the cost of moving freight is really being costly for you guys. And fuel prices, nobody wants to move. We talked about that on our last live, that a lot of our fuel, our diesel fuel that's being produced, is being produced out of that region. And since the owner or since that leader of that area supposedly this was his way to control pricing, and it looks like it's so, because now that oil is really, really costing some money right now. So it did cause a lot of value to happen. A lot of relationships were destroyed at doing that as well. So, but I can see how fuel prices, hopefully there's a relief. I did see an article. I didn't really read it, because it was kind of just, it did said somebody was asking was asking the president to do something, and really the president doesn't have much he can do, to be honest with you. And I think that's why they want to move so much to renewables, because they know how powerless we are to the needs of that type of fuel for diesel. So I believe that's another reason why green is another, not only to try to save our economy, not our economy, but our environment, which I want to get to that next. That's the next subject. I just wanted to kind of go through these questions here. And I may have to return back to these correct questions here, but there's a lot of questions that I wanted to cover. Owner operators. Yeah, I did correct that question there. But fuel prices, I don't think our president can do anything about it. And I think that's why they want to go to renewables, because they don't want somebody singly being able to control energy like that. Watching from Corpus Christi, what's going on, Carlos? I heard Corpus Christi's nice. When are you planning to do a chat video on disc brakes? Well, we do disc brakes. I should have shared some content on a repair that we just had just recently. So that's something that I should have shared as well. Over the road or owner operator. I know a lot of you guys are owner operators. Watching from Rio Grande City, what's in the house? What's going on? Omaha, Nebraska for the night. What's going on? That's Omaha, Nebraska. Appreciate you, brother. Your info on the channel. I appreciate that comment. That's nice of you. How the oil fields? Well, the oil fields they're trying to produce. I heard they're hiring again. I know one guy went back to the oil field that was doing construction since the oil field had dropped. You remember when oil went flat. Now look at it. It's crazy. Dallas, Texas is in the house. What's going on? Only thing that will hurt small fleet companies, the big ones will be fine. Yeah, that's what I mentioned, Scott. That's expected. And the only thing that you can do is join larger fleets if it gets to that point. Bodon says we're in a freight depression. There's with the amount of volume out there and these acquisitions that are going on and that amount of movement that's happening at the ports, I don't see it. I just think that they're trying to save money, but it's not going to last long. I don't see it's for a long term. Romania in the house. Romania, is that like overseas Romania? That's awesome. I wonder if we used to get viewers from Russia. I wonder if we still get viewers. I don't wonder if YouTube is still on in Russia. I'm pretty sure YouTube's not on in Russia anymore. Do you do 6? I'm not sure what that question was. Volvo, I can't find correct tool to take off the female torque screw. Well, it's a female torque screw. You're gonna have to probably go. Usually, I get them off the tool trucks. We'll have them. Search them online. Yes, he can. What do you mean? What can Biden do? The man killed the Keystone first day he went out into office. Yeah. Well, I don't know what if the Keystone was something that did for diesel fuel, then maybe he should open that back up. Hey, what's your thoughts on the IDB big bore cat C15 converts? I haven't looked into that, but you know what? Going on to my next subject. And this is let me get to the last couple questions here, comments, and I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you brought that up about the C15 or Caterpillar period. How is it renewable if you're using fossil fuel to charge electronic vehicles? Exactly, Bodo. That's another point that I'm going to be getting to here shortly. Laredo, Texas is in the house. So let's move on to our next subject. Okay, I was reading an article about not only, they were talking about these speed limiters, which is a little bit off subject, but before we get into EVs, I wanted to comment about the speed limiters. I know this is a mandate that the FMCSA put out there, and it's not even supposed to go into effect. They wanted everybody's comments, but apparently everybody unloaded the comments in a way that was considered unprofessional. So a lot of these comments are going to be overlooked because they weren't voiced correctly as how they should say it. So basically they're saying if you went on, saying this in a disrespectful manner, then they wouldn't even consider these comments, which a high percentage of these comments were being in that manner. And they were just basically stating that the right way to go about that is for us to have gone to our local Congress or our local representative and talk to them about why speed limiters shouldn't be used. I haven't driven trucks in a long time, but I could imagine how a speed limiter could be annoying. But sometimes I do see some truck drivers that are in the hammer lane and they're taking over that hammer lane and they're really not even going fast. That's annoying, especially in the toll roads. If you're in a toll road, get out of the hammer lane. Like even if you're a car, and you're not doing freaking, and I'm not trying to promote speeding, but if you're not out the way, get out of the fast lane. Okay, get out of the fast lane. So okay, so we're gonna be talking about EVs now. So EVs is what they're saying is going to be our savior from fossil fuels. Okay, and we talked about this last week, and this is something that was interesting because I was watching this. It was a truck meet about EVs and what they were doing, and it was weird because I did see an emblem of a Caterpillar. So I didn't know if Caterpillar was going into EV. I try to look it up, and they are running electronic powertrains, but they're still powered by diesel engines. So I don't see that happening. But my main thing about EVs is the semiconductor shortage that slowed down regular manufacturers like Ford on gasoline engines. Okay, so if you've already got this type of slowdown on very crucial parts that is not even 100% electrical. Okay, this is still an internal combustion engine, but they have Ford example. Ford had tons of vehicles that were ready to actually go off. They were already off the assembly line, but they had to park them in an area until they were getting the right semiconductors, or when they would get the shortage in, or whatever it was they needed to complete them. So how is that gonna work with EV? We don't see that. I don't see that happening. Right now, 13% of EV light duty cars were registered in February. You know, that's still a climbing percentage. These are light duty cars. These aren't larger cars. And another thing that I read is GM, which is General Motors, and Volkswagen. We're talking about passenger vehicles. We're not talking about trucks. Are expected to surpass Tesla by 2030, making Tesla the 13th largest car maker of EVs. Volkswagen is expected to be 50% production EV vehicles. Now we're talking about passenger vehicles. Now why does this even matter to us? This is just how cars are going to be first, trucks may be second, but you want to view how cars are going about. Now, I've said this before in one of my other videos. Making the product, well, right now it's still a problem because they can't get all the production. They can't get the production in line. You know, there's delays and shortages and vital parts. So that's a big problem there. Not only that, but you don't even have the infrastructure for the power still. Okay. I brought that up in my last video, and I'm not sure if I even brought up where they are maybe considering where we're going to be getting this power from, because it's not going to be from coal. It can't be from coal. You know, Google does have some wind turbines off the shores. I think I want to say it's in Germany. I want to say Germany. Let me look that up real quick. I want to say Germany. They did have it in Germany. Let me look that real quick. So Google does have wind turbines in Germany. So, and they're using AI, which is artificial intelligence, to try to get this power. Here it is. Google's have projects in Germany. AI is predicted wind turbines, so they know when to produce. Okay, so we're going to have to do either wind turbines, or another conversation that I had is nuclear. Now, nuclear is something that I don't see is going to be a positive change. I don't know too much about nuclear, but I don't see who's going to want a nuclear plant in their neighborhood, especially to be able to sustain this amount of power that we're going to end up using or needing. Not only just for cars, but for trucks. We're not even close to trucks yet. So that's the issue. Producing an EV is not the problem. There's a lot of manufacturers. I mean, look at GE. These guys and Volkswagen are expected to surpass Tesla. But the real issue is the supply of energy. Where is it coming from? Where is it going to be coming from? I mean, they are some really nice nice vehicles. You know, they do run on power, so the power is very instant. They do run on electricity, so the power is very instant. But I just don't see it being sustainable, especially with the amount of power that's going to be needed and where our infrastructure is now. Our infrastructure is very challenged with when it comes to what we're going to be doing and what we're going to be bringing in already. You know, our infrastructure when it comes to freight and needs updates. It needs updates. I told you guys last week about Georgia being shut down because they're trying to dig it deeper so we can accept larger ships. Here we go. This is interesting. 140,000 zero emission orders were placed units. These are Class 8. These are larger vehicles, but only 1,500 were actually registered. So that shows you that the demand is there, but the supply's not there. And demand's not there. The demand is there, but the supply's there. The supply's not there, and it's because the power is not there. The power and all these different shortages that are happening. We talked about Houston already. I don't mean to jump around, but I wanted to talk more about the infrastructures here. So I don't really see us moving over to EV fast. This is something that's going to take some time. I thought it was very interesting to look at how we're going to be building this. We can barely build cars this fast enough. So honestly, my outlook on how our freight is going to be looking for the next couple years is going to be pretty solid, guys. If you have to transition over to bigger companies, I would do that, guys. I appreciate everybody that's joined us. I don't think I'm going to be going an hour and a half today. Let me see what else you guys got here. Let me get back to more of these questions. I can't find the correct tool. Oh, it's a Volvo. Oh, he was taking the ECM off. He had a question about the ECM. If the Keystone, back to Bo Don, if that was something that was bringing in the crude oil that we needed diesel, then that's definitely something that we should probably reconsider. I don't know about the IP. Okay, so you're talking about are we talking about this is a convert kit? I'm not pretty sure, JC, on this convert kit. Is this an overhaul kit? Because I did want to do a video on using aftermarket overhaul kits. I do not recommend any aftermarket parts at all when it comes to putting them on an engine. Even though they might be warranted and all this, I would definitely stick with OEM, just because the amount of work and money that goes into rebuilding an engine it's very time consuming. It takes a lot of work to rebuild an engine. So if you're using aftermarket parts, then you definitely are risking a chance of a failure. How is it renewable if you're using fossil fuel? Yeah, you are using fossil fuels to charge the vehicles, and you're going to be using more fossil fuels to mine everything that's needed to create all the material that's needed. So yeah, that's very understandable. I don't see us moving over to electric either. But what I wanted to mention is after treatment systems aren't going anywhere. This doesn't mean going off and deleting your after treatment system, because I know a lot of guys are kicking back. Oh no, but guys, trust me, if you have a truck and you deleted it, it's long-term effects are going to happen. We see it a lot, especially with these hack deletes. Gas and Truck in Washington, D.C. What's going on? Thanks for joining us. I may be wrapping it up pretty soon. A little gassed out. FMCSA quarterly filing is getting more intense with maintenance from. Yeah, you know what? FMCSA did mention that. I did read that the FMCSA mentioned that they're going to be doing more on-site. They're going to be committing to more on-site audits for violations for carriers that continue to violate. And rightfully so. I mean, if you're a carrier, and this is something, if you're an owner operator and you're going to be moving under somebody else's authority, if you don't have your truck in line, they're not going to hire you on, because they're risking their safety score by letting you on. So if you show any kind of safety violations, a lot of the stuff is automated now. That's why you got all these ELDs put in the truck. They're monitoring your speed, they're monitoring your braking, they're monitoring all types of stuff. all these patterns are going to be are going to be indicators for these carriers to single out somebody that's not a safe driver. That's why I say I shout out to everybody that are really taking this profession seriously, because it's a serious job. It's just like being a police officer. I mean, it's a serious job. You got to be out here and you got to be serious about your safety. You got to be serious about how you're doing your job, not going over your hours, and don't fall asleep, man. It's really tough. How do you diagnose automatic transmissions? The technical college I went to had a Peterbilt with a 10-speed automatic transmission with the twin turbo cat. Okay, if it had a C15, that was probably gonna be an Eaton Fuller, probably a Gen 3, probably the Gen 3. What we would use was Road Ranger, which is the name of the software, and it comes from Eaton Fuller, so you would have to buy it. And that's what we would use. And if anything that's different, like say for example, if it's a D12 or a DT12 or transmission out of a DD15, then we would use Detroit software. But mostly it was Road Ranger because I want to say that C15 was automatic was a Gen 3, which they don't put those transmissions in trucks anymore. They changed the design. A lot of the manufacturers went with their own style transmissions. Like Volvo made their own transmission. That's why Detroit made their own transmission as well. Packard made their own transmission, and it's not really a fully automatic. Mostly it's gonna be a solenoid. Instead of you pushing your foot down to engage that clutch, there's a solenoid in there. There's an actuator in there that pushes it down for you. So it's all automated, and that's usually how these automated systems work. So it's really just an automated manual is what it is. Yes, sir. Get out the hammer, please. Whatever that means. DEF shortage. I have seen. I saw something about fuel shortage, but I maybe it was just in a certain area, and I don't really see that. I didn't really see that anywhere else. What would be the benefit going on PO with a large company versus an owner operator with your own equipment? The rate per mile will be definitely less. If you don't see it, if you don't see a benefit in it, don't do it. Some lanes are not seeing any differences in rates. Some lanes are actually seeing increases in rates. And if you don't see it being beneficial, I'm not saying, hey, take that route. If they're going to pay you less, no, don't take that route. At the same time, consider what you're going to be saving if you don't have to pay certain expenses for running under your own authority. You know, those are items that you're going to be able to save as well. Another thing that I would like to note is, and I'm not saying, hey, go to the major companies, but sometimes those companies will let you off. If you say you don't want to run, I don't know how they are. I haven't ran with them before. Wait a minute. I take that back. When I had trucks, I was leased on to larger trucking companies. The freight was there. We're in a different market. I understand, but you're right. If you're an owner operator and you look into going to a larger company and they're paying you less, no, that wouldn't be a good option for you. If you're still being able to make decent rates, it's going to end up going up. It's going to go up. Stay where you're at. Like you said, EV on the sustainable. I recommend you watch a movie, Planet of the Humans. It relates to the topic of sustainable alternative energy sources. There is, I feel like there could be other energy sources, but since they're not, since somebody's not going to be able to make money off of it, say for example, if we're able to make power out of water and somebody's not going to be able to make money off of fuel anymore or electricity, then it's not an interest to big corporations. It's not going to be an interest for them. It's just going to be it's going to be controlled. Especially like, I don't understand EV. Like I know that after treatment systems are helping to cut down emissions, and I feel like that's a good approach. But EV, yeah, like I said, they're able to make them even with the shortages in semiconductors. But my more concern is where we're going to get this power from. I guess The Simpsons is right. A lot of people say The Simpsons show was right. I don't want more power plants, nuclear power plants around us, around our area. I don't know where. Shout out to if you do live by a nuclear plant. Maybe I'm just ignorant to the fact about nuclear plants. I don't know. Maybe they're not dangerous to live around. Who knows? But I appreciate that. Appreciate that comment. What's the long-term effect of deleting your truck? Good question. Well, the long-term effect of deleting your truck is, one thing is you can't find a quality delete. That is the main problem, is you can't find a quality delete. If you have a DD15, the right way to eliminate that system would be manifold, replace a manifold, getting a good delete that's designed for that engine. But nobody has the equipment or set up to do it. So what they're doing is they're creating hack deletes, which is made up deletes, eliminating this sensor reading, putting it on your truck, making the fuel, making it over fuel so that you can feel extra power. So yeah, okay, man, my truck feels strong over time. It feels strong. I don't have to deal with after treatment system no more. Or forget that. The atom was wrong. Whatever. Okay, a year down the line, because you're gonna be probably idling it all the time. You're gonna be, running it. You're gonna be running it. It's got power. So what happens is when you're over fueling and the tune that you're using is not designed for that particular engine, it's not gonna completely burn that fuel. Okay, so when you don't burn that fuel all the way, diesel's very thick. Diesel's a very thick, dirty fuel. So over time, if it doesn't burn completely, it's going to start collecting on the top part of that piston. And over time, that's going to end up turning into carbon. It's going to turn into real hard carbon. And when that happens, and you're still running and it's fine, it might not happen right away. It's going to happen over time. That carbon is going to start chipping away, and it'll chip away and scrape on the side of that cylinder. Over time, you keep running that truck, I still got power, whatever. All right, a couple years down the line, year and a half down the line, man, my power ain't the same no more, man. Like, I can't get up that hill like I used to, or something's going on, man. Okay, let me take it to Adam. He talk about don't delete it. Let me go take it to him. At this point, we don't even mess with them no more. And I'm sorry to be that type of person, because we used to accept, eliminated trucks, and we don't anymore. Just because it's just sucks. I mean, you're gonna either have to rebuild that engine, the tune still ain't right. There's still issues with going on with, hey, well, I can't get it cranked up, or the power still ain't there. There's not even a guarantee that the problem is going to be fixed. So here we are trying to fix this problem for you, chasing it down, because information's deleted from the ECM alone. So I can't even use the software needed to troubleshoot what's going on with the truck correctly, because I got eliminated information on the truck. So now we got an issue. Now we're like, oh man, what are we gonna do with your truck, man? Hey, well, I'm not the one who deleted it. So well, hold on, man. Well, you say you're gonna be able to fix it, and well, I can't. We can't do anything. We can't do anything because it's deleted. So at this point, we stop accepting deleted trucks. So that's the long-term effects that you can have on a deleted truck. Now, it's more common on the more early models, just because I mean the technology is not there. They're designed to be tamper proof. They're basically required by the government to create a engine that is tamper proof, which cannot be eliminated. So you got people, you got engineers designing these engines, designing these electrical systems to not be tampered with. And then you have, you got a hacker over here that's kind of realized, hey, I got hackers over here that want to figure out how to get around it and how to bypass stuff. But I'm going to sell it. I'm going to sell it for $3,000. I'm going to sell it for $1,500. And they're going to sell it to drivers that don't know the system, or they don't have a solid shop to maintain that system for them, or educate them more on how to maintain those systems. So what do? Oh, you know what? $1,500, whatever, $2,000. Yeah. Boom. They do this, and they bypass your system for $2,000 or whatever they call it there, whatever they try to charge you nowadays. and you're bypassing a very large or very expensive piece of equipment, which is the after treatment system, and you're actually risking your engine now of producing more soot than it's supposed to, because now it's over fueling, and it just causes problems. It causes problems. And this is not something we're making up, Kingdom Express. I appreciate you this comment, man. This is not something that we made up. Like I said, we used to service deleted trucks, but when we started seeing them coming in and coming in and coming in, all models, Volvos, Max, DD15s, Cummins, when we started seeing all these models come in and have all these issues, man, it just was like, man, we can't accept them anymore, because we can't troubleshoot them correctly. We can't troubleshoot them correctly because of the system's been deleted, and then going back to it is costly. I just quit last week. I had 2 trucks and officially sold all of them. Now I'm back to work in a local good paying job. Well, as I mentioned, there are people exiting, especially with fuel costs. If I don't know how long you're with the system or with the industry. Hopefully, I wish you best. I wish you the best on your next venture. What's the best software to buy for a DD15 if you want to work on one, and if there's not a dealer around in your area? Well, I keep hitting this camera button here because I don't want it to shut off on me, but we use Triple DL professional version. It helps you run just whatever you need, but it's not cheap. It's going to be, I want to say it's a couple of grand a year you have to pay for that. It's a subscription that you have to pay. There are hack softwares out there that they buy. You can buy the laptop preloaded. I would not go that route, just because it's a hack. It's a hack, software. So if you ever try to connect to the internet, you could get spammed, or if you're dealing with a newer model truck, you might not be able to have all the tools you need, or all the steps, all the procedures that you need to troubleshoot it correctly, because the newer softwares have a lot of information on there. So it helps you better understand what's going on with the system and what to look for. It's not going to just pinpoint it to you like, hey, this is what the problem is. It's going to take more practice to understand, hey, well, have you seen this before? But good question on the delete. I hope that I was able to cover your concerns about deletes and what long-term deletes do to your truck. It is a serious situation. It's not the same as like a V8, a smaller diesel engine. A smaller diesel engine they rotate faster. The displacement is a lot smaller. It's a whole different engine, so you can't compare those type of diesel deletes to these newer diesel deletes, and or for these Class 8. It's a whole different application as well. I appreciate your videos, bro. I appreciate that comment. Salute from Alabama. Well, I'll tell you, sometimes I miss that Cajun food. I was down in Alabama years ago. As I was stationed down there when I did serve. Hi from Benson, North Carolina. What's going on? End up polishing out the liners. ISX 15 that had an issue with the EGR dumping, adding soot. They added the scraper rings. Yeah, even Detroit added. I had a comment here about polishing, and that's basically what it's called. Whenever you have all that built up soot, it's basically polishing the liners, and when that happens, your piston ring is not sealing that cylinder. So whenever you have that cylinder, that piston comes up to the top, and you have that fire, those piston rings supposed to seal that cylinder liner, so all that pressure is being pushed down. So all that combustion pressure is being pushed down. So when you have polishing happen or scraping happen, that explosion happens, some of that pressure is being passed by the sides of that piston ring, which is not creating that complete power. So that's what ends up causing that low power, high blow by, and having issues. So yeah, most of the new engines, DD15s and ISX 15s and X15s come with that carbon scraper. The first time that I saw it was with Cummins, and then later on we saw it on the new builds with Detroit. So yeah, they're using it as well, carbon scrapers, and that's what I do like about all the innovation that's happened in diesel engines, everything like that. No, I don't work on deleted trucks. I'm sorry, Armando. Sorry about that, man. We don't work on deleted trucks. What was at your shop last week? I was at your shop. Okay, well, hopefully we were able to meet and exceed your expectations, guys. I saw a question. Somebody was asking if we were going to be moving down to North America. Did he end up removing that? Oh, okay, here it is. Is TA Express going to expand the business all in North America, or is only exclusive in some states? I would like to expand across. I know that we got to expand locally. We got to expand locally first. I'm hoping to get more people to join us. We did have some new hires coming on. We're excited about adding on to our team. We do need to grow our shop. Because we do have some more team members that like to join us, and I'd like to make more space for them. So I am in the works. It's just time consuming. Showing them what we need and what's going on, and all the planning just to plan that building. And I probably won't build. We probably won't build in Houston. We'll probably lease. But anyway, building takes a long time. Had wheel alignment done right, steer tire, axle off pulling to the right, shaving rubber, new tire. Yep. Definitely get alignment if you got new tires. To my radar sensor was causing problems with the brake system. The shop tried to help remove it, but couldn't figure it out. Well, the radar systems are kind of tough to remove. They do start putting a tamper proof on there. And honestly, sometimes the software is not allowing you to disable the radar system, because I'll tell you why. It's a safety hazard. So if you have an accident, say for example, you have an accident and your radar system was supposed to prevent that accident, but went to a shop and you got the radar system deactivated. That is something that could probably fall back on either the operator or the shop. Most of the time it's going to be on the operator, just because they're the ones who put the order in. Radar systems are a little tricky, man. I would probably just get it replaced. I mean, it's safe, man. I mean, if you're having a cruise control on, and you want that radar system working so that you can brake. I've seen some radar systems that will allow you to follow behind a truck. It'll target a truck. And this is crazy. This is all new technology, but it'll target a truck, and you could keep your distance, and it'll lock that distance on that truck, so that if that truck speeds up, you're staying right behind it. If it slows down, it's slowing down as well. My thoughts on the DEF shortage is coming. Well, if DEF is made in house, I don't see us falling short on it. If we do fall short on it, I was more concerned about diesel fuel. I thought I saw diesel fuel. Have you guys seen any diesel fuel shortages on any of the truck stops? I thought I read that I saw some diesel shortages. Let me know if you guys saw any diesel shortages or anywhere you are at. And if you do see any DEF shortages, I haven't seen any DEF shortages. If DEF, I want to look up to see how DEF is made. I think it's made in house. Sorry guys, I don't mean to drink all in your ear. FA Trucking, where are you reading DEF shortages, or have you seen DEF shortages already? I have said, I've seen some posts, but I haven't seen actual DEF shortages yet. Well, everything is going to be shortages, huh? Wow. Probably condoms too, huh? Good thing nobody uses those. I'm more concerned about food. Yeah, that's facts. I'm glad you said that about food shortages, because the increase in prices they said the increase in prices haven't even hit yet. The increase in prices for food hasn't even hit yet. Ain't that crazy? We haven't even seen the increase, and there's already a increase in food and what it costs. I mean, everybody's buying food different now. Sometimes you can buy prepared food. Um, heck, I mean, but we still got to eat. We still got to eat. What did we say? That system is not safe. It almost caused me to crash in detecting as objects that are not there. Well, that sounds like to me you have either a connection issue. If we're talking, okay, we're talking about a viewer's radar system that he wanted deactivated, and I told him it was safe to have it, but he's telling him it almost made him wreck. It's not detecting objects correctly. It either is not calibrated. You have to get it. We have to calibrate it, or that radar system might not be reading correctly. If it's not reading correctly, then yeah, it's gonna throw false reading. It's gonna be more of a headache than anything. So yeah, I get that. More of a headache, and that you need cruise control. I would definitely try to get that radar fixed, man, if it was working before. Is the 2016 DD15 any good to have? Any engine is good to have, long as it has a solid maintenance history. If you got an engine that doesn't have any kind of maintenance history and you just bought it and you don't have any history on it, and it's got high mileage, then yeah, definitely would be concerned about that. 2016 is not that bad. I'm more concerned about the early models, like anything prior to 2015 DD15s, because they were still kind of working out all the kinks on those engines. But no, that's a solid engine as long as the maintenance has been kept up, and all the it's called duty cycles. All your duty cycles have been kept up, because if you don't keep up with your proper duty cycles, I got videos on that, on proper duty cycles. That's definitely gonna cause you to have some problems on your maintenance. He said engine oil shortage of cell, that system. Okay, we already saw it. I'm gonna cover these last comments. I'm probably gonna wrap this up. Someone feels left out and wants jack up their prices on supposed shortages. I mean, you look at what the pandemic did. Okay, the pandemic caused a disruption in freight, and it caused, what did that do? It caused a higher demand in freight. Okay, especially exports coming out of China. They just got off a lockdown again. He feels like that is maybe controlling the supply demand, and then you have Putin, which I don't want to, I don't know what the motive is, but if the motive is trying to raise prices on and they have ways of doing it, then I see where you're saying. DF is made in house, but the ingredients is imported. That's not a surprise. I keep 3 months of food in my truck all the time. Hell yeah, driver. 3 months? Wow. You out there. You on the road. Shout out to you. I hope you're doing your pre-trips too, because do your pre-trips too, man. 3 months is good, but you have a breakdown, that food might go bad. So make sure you do your pre-trips. I'm a reefer hauler, and the food shortage is real. It is real. I know it's real. We haven't filtered in the supermarkets yet. That's what I meant. I read this probably last month about it's going to take another, I want to say, a month or two before you start filling it in the aisles, but I don't know if it's even going to happen. By that time we might, heck, they might, I don't know what they're doing. We're still eating. Everyone's still eating. DF ingredients are imported from China and Russia. Not surprised. What advice do you have for the 14-liter with the EGR totally deleted and the PDI Big Boss turbo and manifold? Hey, do I get a longer life on the setup? Thanks. Well, I mean, a proper elimination is, of course, manifold, all that. Proper delete. I don't know where they're basing their deletes off of. A 14-liter, which is an older model truck, is a little bit easier to eliminate the after treatment because they were just adding them on there. They were adding them onto the assembly lines. So they really didn't have too much integration when it comes into their electronics. That's another reason why older models are a little bit easier to eliminate, even though I'm not saying go off and eliminate. We don't do any elimination, so don't call and ask. But now that the earlier models have a lot more integration going on, so it's a lot A lot harder. Sorry, I just want to make sure my camera didn't turn off. It's a lot harder. It's a lot harder than these newer model trucks. These older model trucks are really. Oh, I appreciate that, man. I appreciate that $20, man. $20 super chat, man. I appreciate that. Big bucks there, man. That buys me a few coffees, man. And I appreciate that, man. I got some more videos coming out for you guys, man. I plan on shooting pretty consistent. I got a video coming out Wednesday, and I got another video coming out next Wednesday. Okay. If you guys want to give me some ideas on what you want to look out for, let me know. I got the M14 that we're going to be shooting that's coming together. It's a rebuild that we're doing from the ground up. Really good message. Really good. I do my tree trips today. I'm sorry. Why'd you take it back? It's fine. That's good that you do your pre-trips. And we got the M14 video. I want to do an M14 video. That's where he's building it from the ground up. Really stout engine. That's a really good truck. That was a really good engine when it was running on the road. The only thing I didn't like was the push rods. But he said, watch a lot of my videos. Great to catch you live. I appreciate that. I'm going to be more consistent live and try to bring you more content, more information, or at least new content every time we talk. What's your advice on the 14-liter? We talked about that. Sorry about that. Thanks, Adam. You guys did calibrate it, but it's still giving problems and disabled cruise control. Then I have to reset it and turn it off. Yeah, that's I guess he shouldn't try to disable it. But if it's not disabled, then we might have to mess with the settings a little bit. I thought you said he wasn't able to disable it. How do I get a repair manual for semi truck for torque specs? Depending on what truck it is, you're probably end up gonna have to go through the go online and get the subscription. Era is imported, and also main ingredient is fertilizer. Yeah, it probably is all imported. So if there is a shortage happening, when you see it, let me know. Is biodiesel someone makes at home is biodiesel someone makes at home a bad idea to put in your truck? I probably wouldn't put biodiesel in your truck, definitely, because if you're already not fully burning diesel fuel, then you could possibly cause more buildup of carbon and cause that polishing we were talking about. Thanks again for that $20 super chat, man. That was really generous of you. Yes, I do my pre-trips every day, and I'm a pepper, and I got survival gear in my truck in the worst case scenario. I wonder if you're a prepper. I wonder if are you ex-military or something? Or are you just ready? You're just ready. It's enough food and fuel to sustain the world. Too much greed is a problem. Yep, too much greed is a problem. Mostly it's big corporations that created the Constitution and want to stay in power, and I agree with that. But we're not here to debate about politics. It's all we can do is just keep moving forward and try to do the best what we can. Not sure if it's true, but I heard that the Cali Carb was setting up to spot that world read emission on passenger trucks and snap DOT info. Well, I know that California is leading the way to CARB because they are a very congested port, rightfully so. As I mentioned, China's coming in from China, the most congested port. So what is your professional opinion on PACCAR? PACCAR engines are very solid, man. I don't see them a lot. Very expensive to work on. Parts are very high. Sometimes you can't get them. And they're just kind of tight to work on. But other than that, they're very solid engines. I don't really see them much in the shop. Keeping up with maintenance on them is very good. They're a solid engine. I like them, Sean. I don't see any issues with them. They are pretty new. And they make their own transmissions as well. So I like how they're keeping everything integrated or everything together. Rebuild video on Eaton Fuller manual transmission would be a very appreciated. We don't usually do in-house rebuilding anymore on transmissions, only on engines, just because there's a lot of local rebuilders that can do it, that usually do it for us. But guys, he said he's not, okay. You're not a military family. Probably maybe your pops gave you some information. But guys, I'm going to wrap it up. We had a really good show today. I really appreciate that $20 super chat. I got another video coming out on Wednesday. So I hope you guys are going to be all there ready to rock and roll with our new video. We got another live coming next week. I'm going to be sharing some more information on for next week, so don't worry about it. It's going to be a whole brand new show. I hope I was able to answer your question on this freight recession. If you look over everything that I talked about, I hope I did cover everything that I've saw on my own. And to be honest with you, I don't see that we're in that situation. You might have to make some changes on how you're moving, but I would not. And back to that guy's comment, if you do try to move to a carrier and they're not trying to pay you the same amount and they're trying to pay you less and it doesn't look feasible, it's not feasible, then stay where you're at. Stay in your lane. Guys, I appreciate everybody that's joined us today. It was a really cool show today. I try to bring on the energy today. I hope you guys were entertained, and I hope you guys were able to learn something with this information. I'm going to be seeing you guys next week. Until next time, guys, be safe. We're going to have a new video next week, and we're going to be going live again next week, guys. Until next time, guys, be safe.